Find books your kids will want to read with engaging stories for kids, youth, and young adults, and nonfiction books to encourage and guide them on a purpose-driven life. The Wednesday Bookmark on CHRI.
Children's author and senior developmental editor for Moody Publishers, Amanda Cleary Eastep, has just released the first 2 books in her debut series, Treestreet Kids, for middle grade readers. In book 1, Jack versus the Tornado, 10-year-old Jack's family is moving from their family farmhouse, where he had the best fort, to the suburbs of Chicago, where he meets neighbors, makes new friends, and makes a shocking discovery. And it's tornado season. Welcome, Amanda.
Hey, Care. Thank you.
So, Amanda, first of all, you are from Chicago, and Jack's family just moved to a Chicago suburb. So I want to start off by asking this. It's right in the title. How much did you know about tornadoes before writing this book?
Well, right now I live in the suburbs of Chicago, and I've kind of, my personal experience has spanned kind of what Jack's experience is, at least in the beginning. So I grew up on kind of in the middle of 5 acres of corn, surrounded by many more acres of corn. So I kind of grew up in a small farm town and that's where Jack is from, our main character. And then eventually I moved to the suburbs, and I went to college in the city of Chicago. I work at Moody Publishers, which is in smack downtown in the city of Chicago. So it was really fun to draw from all those different experiences. And as far as tornadoes, I do have personal experience with that, a couple. And when we lived, when I was a kid and we lived out in the country, you can't really live in the Midwest, right, without at some point having a tornado siren go off or have some kind of experience with that. But our barn actually went down, and our house wasn't damaged much. But the entire barn went down. So that's one of the experiences I draw from Jack. And I've had, that was the second tornado experience I had as a kid.
Well, there are a few other personal elements that you've drawn from, including the Treestreet Kids themselves. I understand they were based on your husband's childhood friends?
Yeah, it was really fun when I had the opportunity to propose a middle grade series. I knew it was going to be a series of at least a few books. And so you always have to have that, that overarching, well, what's the name of the series? And I knew I wanted it to be a group of kids and live in the neighborhood, kind of, have that environment and that feel to it. And as I was talking to my husband one day, I said, hey, what was that group of kids you played with back in New Jersey? And he said, oh, it's the Treestreet Gang. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll skip the gang part and we'll just Treestreet Kids. And what I thought was really fitting about that as well is that whether you live in the country or you live in the suburbs or you live in the city, pretty much any reader has some familiarity with a street named after a tree. It's just so common to, the American kind of neighborhood experience. Mm-hmm. So it just fit well.
It does fit well. In your experience helping authors develop their manuscripts, does bringing in personal connections like that make projects more meaningful for them, more successful for authors?
I think every author draws from a lot about what they know. I mean, I had events from my life, my kids' lives, and it was just kind of fun to, like, this group of kids is totally fictional, but you always draw a little bit from the people you know and your experiences and life. And so, yeah, I think there's just a richness to that, because then as you're writing, you start to, that emotional part of things, you kind of get drawn into the story too. And, writing about the tornado, for instance, I mean, I never thought I was going to write about this tornado experience that I had as a child, right? I mean, you have the experience, you move on with your life, but then for it to kind of come back up again as something in my first book for children was an interesting process. And, I kind of worked that out on my blog, but I thought, wow, God really uses things in our lives. So the whole tornado really became kind of this deeper theme of uncertainty, and it was almost like not just the man versus nature theme that books have, but man versus man. Jack was really having to struggle with how does he deal with uncertainty, which was really interesting to be writing this book during the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. What is the significance of the Bible verse from Hebrews 11:9 in the story?
So the whole idea is Jack has to move, and I just thought that was a really good place. It's kind of Jack versus the Tornado is kind of an origin story, if you will, for the series. Who is Jack, and how does he become part of the Treestreet Kids? So he has to move from the farm to the suburbs, and he has to leave a lot of things behind, like we do. And I remember that, like moving a few times when I was a kid, and there was just such upheaval, such change, and it was very stressful. And Jack as a person does not like uncertainty. And so he has to leave his beloved hayloft fort, and the door of the hayloft is something that his grandfather had carved a Bible verse into, and that was that verse from Hebrews. And just like Abraham has to go somewhere into a foreign land, Jack is really that's really resonating with Jack as he's moving to the suburbs.
Yeah. Can you explain why you included these little extras in the book from some of the other characters, like Midge's phenomenal facts and Ellison's bookmark and Roger's riveting history?
So those really happened at first organically. So Midge is Jack's little sister. Roger is is one of his best friends, one of the kids, and Ellison is his best friend. And then there's Ruthie, who's the other part of the club, kind of, if you will. So Midge loves science. Roger is always talking in kind of 10 codes or military speak. Ellison, he's just an avid reader, so he loves to quote literature and the Bible. And so it's really part of their personalities and the development of their characters. But these little facts just kind of started to pop up, and I thought, well, instead of footnoting them, and footnotes are probably one of the most boring things to read, I thought, why not make it like this something special that has to do with the character, and then could we, in the print book, set it off in a really fun way? So the design team came up with this great idea. So for instance, Midge's phenomenal facts are like science, her crazy little random science facts. So on the page, there's it almost looks like a little sticky note kind of, and then each one has a graphic that goes along with it. So all of Midge's phenomenal facts have a little frog illustration on them. Roger, all of his have a little walkie-talkie on them because that's how he communicates with his mom. It was just a fun way to incorporate some almost, I guess, if you want to call it, more educational kinds of things into the book, but in a really fun way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it adds a little bit of illustration to the book, too. There are a few illustrations in the book.
Right.
Just as we wrap up, because we're low on time, but I just want to get a little tease on book 2. So the adventure in book 1 is that they discover a lump in Mr. Bruno's yard, and I'm not going to explain what that is, spoiler. But what is the adventure that the kids find themselves in book 2, The Hunt for Fang?
So the kids, where they live is surrounded by some very deep woods, forest preserves. And Jack, he has a beloved pet now, and he's a little bit worried about the local wildlife. They've called this, it's a coyote, and they call it Fang. So as they're feeling like they have to kind of protect their pets and figure out, where their boundaries are and where nature's maybe cross over, they really learn about stewardship, and then somebody gets lost in the woods. So that's kind of a climactic moment there.
So fun. Well, the first 2 books in this 4-book middle grade series, Treestreet Kids, bring adventure, friendship, and fun. And books 3 and 4 will also be released simultaneously in summer of 2022. Book 1, though, Jack versus the Tornado, Amanda Cleary Eastep. Amanda, thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Care.
To hear this interview again, or to discover more great books your kids will want to read, visit bookmark.chri.ca. The Wednesday Bookmark,